Hey guys, it's Maxine and thank you so much for watching. So in today's video, I'm going to be doing a corrective color balayage on my client. She's gone to a couple of different salons before and her goal was to get lighter, and every time the salon or whoever she was going to would try to lighten her hair, they would do very chunky highlights, so it would leave her with a lot of different chunks and dark spots and light spots, and so this is definitely a corrective color. It's going to be a big job. I tried to condense this video as short as possible, but it might be close to an hour long, so hang in there, grab a snack, and this definitely took me a decent handful of hours to do. I'm not exactly sure, definitely probably like 6 hours to do, but so as you can see, her hair, it has this big blonde chunk in the front, totally disconnected from the rest. Her natural color is super dark, probably naturally like a 3, and so she's definitely very naturally dark, and we're just going to basically be correcting all of this chunking, I said. We're going to be correcting all of this chunks and banding, and there's like tons of shadows. You can tell, like, if you just look at her, there's tons of shadows in this one side of her head, and there's just shadows everywhere throughout all of her hair. So really, I want to get rid of all these shadows, get rid of all this chunks, and definitely lighten this up, give her like a nice seamless balayage, root shadow, color melt, dark to light, but we still want that money piece, but I definitely don't want to give her any type of like this chunky type of money piece. I want it to be like a nice seamless, natural money piece, and it's definitely corrective color. And I'm going to show you guys how I would go about correcting this, so definitely stay tuned. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, especially if you like color videos and you want to see more. Give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. And definitely hit the bell for post notifications so you're always notified every time I upload a new video. God, I'm so glad to get rid of this chunk in the front like this. I hate it, and all these shadows. My client was a trooper though. She, had all of her trust in my hands. So that's always really nice. And so definitely also follow me on Instagram, because I always post all of my formulas on all of my pictures. So it's a nice kind of referral tool if you're ever looking for formulas. So definitely follow me for that. And also definitely share this video with anybody you know that this might help, because I know that these corrective color jobs are definitely, tricky, and a lot of people want to know how to go about them. So definitely share this with anybody that you know. And alright guys, if you want to watch me do this corrective color balayage, then definitely keep watching. I always start off with parting their hair where they naturally part it, or if they do go on kind of each side and kind of switch it around, then I always do it in the middle. But I think this client wore her hair in the middle part anyway. And I'm doing the subsections behind the ear, and I'm just sectioning off both sides completely away, and I'm going to be starting in the back near the nape, because I just feel like if I have to wash out any of the first sections that I started to do any lightener on, it's much more comfortable when they're laying back in the sink to be able to lighten it if I start with the nape first. So as you can see, I took a nice big slice and I teased the whole root up. So this is like a foliage type of a balayage basically, and so I teased the whole root and I clipped it away with this nice clip, and I'm just balayaging the whole strand basically. I put the lightener down on halfway throughout the strand, so halfway down I just saturate all of the hair with the lightener, and then I'm doing like a V shape, and once I have the V shape in place, then I start kind of back combing with my brush, and I start to blend all of this up, and I definitely always flip it upside down like I'm doing here, and I do the same shape underneath, blending it on the top and on the underneath, and I'm going to be sandwiching this in between two foils. And whenever I sandwich it with the foils, I always put the bottom foil on, and then that's when I wipe my hands off on a towel, and then I sandwich the top foil over it and take the clip away. That's going to help keep the foils nice and clean. I don't always show me wiping my hands off, but that's when I would wipe my hands off. And now I'm taking down the next section, and I'm really just like, every section's different, but I'm trying to take the parts, the slices of her hair that really have like a lot of the chunks going on, and because I really want to erase all of these chunks, you know. So I didn't show the left side because it's harder to see it with the angle of my camera, but I do a slice on the left side and also now a slice on the right side, so I'm showing you guys the right side. but I only put the one slice on the nape because of the size of the head. So it's always like smaller on a section near the nape, and then as I start coming up the head, it's wider. So I'll do 2 sections, 1 slice on each side. And yeah, I'm going to do the same thing, making the V section and then just blending this all out and flipping it upside down, blending the underneath, and sandwiching this in foils. I forgot to mention the lightener that I'm using is Matrix Light Master, and I mixed 25 volume, so that's 20 volume and 30 volume mixed together. Now I'm on to the next section. I already did a slice on the left, and so now I'm showing you, like, once again, the slice on the right. It's just a better angle, and I'm really just pulling this out to show you how crazy the chunks in her hair are, and I'm just lightly teasing up the root just to kind of get some of these, you know, baby hairs out of the way, and then using the clip to really push all of this out of the way, all of the tease. And yeah, so I'm doing the same thing. I'm really just blending all of this chunkiness out, and definitely goes a long way. It blends it all out really good, and you'll see, like, this is really getting rid of all of the shadows. I'm also leaving really thin slices in between each foil. Like, I'm really trying not to go too light on the foils here. Like, I definitely want to get rid of all of these chunks, so if I leave too thick of a section in between each foil, you know how I'm leaving a section out, then I would be technically leaving like a big chunky area out, you know. So I'm just trying to like take and leave out thinner slices so that it doesn't keep any of the chunks in the hair. And then later on with the glazing and the toning, that's going to help anything else left over blend right in, but this is really getting rid of most of the chunks. Also, I figured I would mention really quick, if you're wondering what the hell that chirping is in the background, I have my parrot next to me, and yeah, he just likes to be next to me because it keeps him quiet, so if you hear any chirping, it's my parrot. But anyway, this slice that I have right here, I'm just showing you because the chunks are definitely more fine here in this piece. Like, obviously the last stylist took like a weave in this section, so the chunks aren't as defined or as crazy, but it's still chunky. It's just not as crazy of a chunk. But yeah, so the lightener is going to blend all of this out also. And yeah, so I'm just trying to basically show here that each slice that I take out, the pattern on it is definitely very different. Some are just weaves and some are like really thicker chunks, so each pattern's different, but I'm taking this the same way. Like, I'm basically applying the lightener and the pattern the same way in each piece, no matter what it looks like, but I might just maybe blend it up higher in some slices than others, depending on how much dark is in the hair. So in this specific slice, I don't really have to blend it up as high, but yeah, basically just kind of blending it up, you know, the same each time. My parrot is literally sleeping next to me, and he's still chirping, like, yippee, shut up. So yeah, please excuse that. Anyway, let me know if you guys want to see my parrot ever. You know, I can have him come on, make a little guest appearance. My Chihuahua dog is next to me sleeping also, but she's good and quiet and sleeping and doesn't make any weird noises. Like, my parrot is literally sleeping and he's still friggin' chirping. But anyway. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just going along, continuing this foliage, balayage type of a technique, and yeah, just stay tuned, keep on watching, and I'll talk and do commentary along the way, and, you know, give my tips and tricks the whole time. There's tons of tips and tricks, and I put them in each video. I'll literally give as much information as I possibly think of in the moment. And I hope this helps you guys. Like I said, definitely share this video with anybody you think it could help as well. And okay, so this piece here is not insanely chunky or anything, but this is kind of like more of a shadowy piece. So there's definitely just like a lot of this darker blonde going on, lighter brown. So this is one of the pieces that's creating a lot of shadows in her hair. So brightening this up and blending this up the same way with that V, and is just really going to help brighten this up. And yeah, so this is just, you know, an example of a piece that isn't crazy chunky, but is one of the pieces that's creating a lot of the shadows. Also, after I blend the underneath like this, like I'm blending the underneath really good, and I'm doing this in the same type of a pattern that I did the slice with, like the V shape. In this case, I did more of like a W shape. But, and when I flip the piece back down, I just like to blend out the top again, because sometimes flipping it up like readjusts the slices, the little pieces of hair. So I just like to kind of quickly blend the very top again, and then I sandwich it in the foil, because I don't want to leave any like weird banding or chunks or anything. I want this to blend out really nice. So as the lightener, however the lightener sits on the hair as it's processing is how it's going to lift. So always make sure that each piece underneath and the top is blended out perfectly before you tuck it away in a foil. And so this piece is definitely one of the chunkier pieces. So just blending up every piece is the way to go for sure. Also, another reason why this balayage is more of a foliage type of a situation is because I really, really wanted like the saturation in the hair. I wanted to take like thinner slices. I wanted like the lightener to sit around each strand of hair. I didn't want like a surface balayage type of thing. Corrective color balayages, you never really want like a surface balayage, if that makes sense. You don't want the lightener to just sit directly above the strand. You want it to be all around the strand, like totally saturated. So a thinner slice is what you need for corrective color balayages. So that's why I'm going about the teasing and taking a thinner slice and saturating it really, really good. This piece is another example of why the ends are so shadowy in her hair, because the dark chunks in a lot of these pieces, like this one, goes to the very ends of her hair, so that's creating so much of that shadow in the ends. So really just lightening this up is really just doing so much for her hair, you know what I mean? And all this blending is getting rid of these crazy chunks. So yeah, I'm just doing the same type of thing in each strand and each slice, but like you can see that each slice definitely has a different pattern. So definitely just continuing to saturate really well and blend really well. Okay, now that I'm getting closer to the top of her head, we're at the crown section now, and it's just like the nape. It's definitely like a smaller section, so I'm able to just take one slice and bring this down, and I'm just, I'm not doing them next to each other anymore. I'm just taking the one slice and I'm teasing the root. And because this section is a little bit wider, because I'm just taking the one section, I'm putting a clip on each side just to really get these, little teased hairs out of the way. And it just helps to kind of keep the section nice and clean, so I don't have to worry about the lightener getting on these little pieces of hair, So yeah, now I'm just taking the V shape just directly in this one piece, and it really just helps to create such a nice blend, because now on all of the pieces underneath where we have the slice left and right, the V shape is going up. So on the big wide section, if you just kind of can picture that as a whole, if there's a V shape on the left and a V shape on the right, that's like one big W. And then now that we're at the top of the head here and we're doing one big V shape, it's just adding that just kind of altered dimension. And yeah, it's just going to make it really nice when we do the glaze. All the placement is just going to look nice and seamless. It's not going to be like the same exact placement the whole time, because now we're going to just the one W on the top here. So yeah, it just makes it look really nice. It's subtle, and only like a hairstylist could really understand it because of the different placement of the highlights, but it's definitely good for the highs and lows, the peaks, for wherever the lightener is on as a strand, like wherever the lightener is sitting right now as like a big chunk on the left and the right where the V is where like that highlight is going to come in. So yeah, it just makes the highlights look nice and blended, and you're never going to get like that weird line in the head if you're doing it like this way. So yeah, sorry if that's confusing, but basically whenever you're saturating the very ends of the hair, that's when you're getting like the nice overall brightness, but it's in the shape of the V or the W or the U, whatever shape that you're doing, it's like right in that shape where you actually see like the highlight, if that makes sense. Like where you see like the strands of dimension, that's where you're going to see them. Whenever like the total result is done, like the dimension part is going to be in that like root kind of midshaft area, and the ends are just going to be like where you see the brightness. But so whenever you want to see like that highlight chunk, and that's what's going to give you the dimension, that's definitely where you're going to see it, is in the shape of the V or the W or whatever shape you are, doing. So I already did the left side of the head, and now I'm on the right side, and I'm starting off close to the ear, and I'm just doing the same thing, skipping a really thin slice in between each slice that I'm lightening. And yeah, same thing, a V section, and blending it up really good. And so as you can see on the other side, I left the very front bang, like that really like light stripe in the front. I left that out of the foils totally because I'm not going to be foiling that right away. You can see that it's so light. So I definitely don't want to put that in lightener at all right now. I want to have this like process a bit before I do that. And then I have to blend like the root part of that up, and you'll see me do that in a second. But for now, I'm just going to be leaving that out. I left it out already on the left, and as I'm lightening the whole side right now that I'm working on, I'm going to just be keeping that out of the way. And yeah, basically you see how light it is. And then the root part is super like a straight line at the root. So I want to blend and feather the root part up, but obviously I don't need the lightener sitting on that super light piece at all much, you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just going to wait until the end for that. And right now I'm working on, see, this piece doesn't really have crazy chunks in it, but this is definitely like the darker piece that's creating like that huge shadow. And yeah, it's just good to lighten this completely up to get that all out of the way. We don't want any weird shadows in her hair. Yeah, so I'm glad that it's just like satisfying to correct these like type of pieces, you know what I mean? But yeah, any type of lightening is going to do this justice for sure. It's just going to erase all of these weird lines and shadows. And yeah, stay tuned and I'll let you guys know how I'm going to be glazing this and color melting and what formulas I use as well. So as you can see, I'm just separating this super light chunk out of the way, leaving it just totally out of the foil. And I'm going to be balayaging this same piece the way that I've been doing all of the pieces. You know, I still want to concentrate like on that money piece. So I'm definitely still giving her like that nice big V in the very front hairline, even though I technically took the hairline out. I'm still doing it in the way that I would normally do it, you know, because I want that money piece to be nice and bold and everything. So I'm still doing a money piece, even though it's like a nice ½ inch away from her hairline. I'm still doing it the same way I would normally do it. And as I'm watching myself paint this lightener on the ends here, you can see how dark the ends are right now, you know, in this little piece here. So that's like where the huge shadow is coming from. I'm just glad that we're erasing it and she doesn't have to worry about that anymore. And I know this can definitely sometimes be repetitive watching me paint the same pieces over and over again, but definitely stay tuned because I'm going to be showing you guys my little trick that I always use on corrective colors, especially with dark hair corrective colors. This is, I feel like, mostly when I use this trick, but it's just a little trick that I do, and it's just taking that extra step, doing a little bit extra work, but it's so worth it, and it perfects these corrective colors like you wouldn't even believe. So definitely stay tuned. Okay, and this is the last piece that I'm working on, and once I put this in a foil, I'm going to be popping my client underneath the dryer for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to be bringing her back to my station, and you're going to get to see what my trick is for corrective colors on very dark hair. Okay, so now I'm going to be getting into my trick. So once I take my client out from underneath the dryer, bring her back to my station, and I start to resaturate the foils all over again. And yeah, I'm just resaturating this piece, and then I'm going to be flipping it over, and I'm just taking off the bottom foil, like kind of closer to the root. And basically, I'm just going to be taking my lightener and blending this up again even more to make sure that it's like super saturated on the underneath part. That's going to help this really process nice and strong, because a lot of times, even though we really blended out the underneath already, as it's sitting and processing and lightening, it's definitely like sucking up a lot of the lightener, and it's definitely doing its job. It's eating up all of the pigment in the hair, and it's starting to kind of dry and get a little weaker. You can see, like, I painted this and it totally saturated it, but it looks like the lightener totally disappeared, you know? So yeah, this is just giving you like this extra step and really just strengthening these pieces to really be able to cut through this brass and cut through any of these like chunks or shadows or blotchy spots, you know? And it might seem like a lot of extra work to go through each foil all over again, but honestly, all of the work is completely done already. This is just really quickly slapping on some lightener just to strengthen it and to resaturate it, to kind of like wet it again. Mostly all of the work is totally done. Like, I'm not really doing anything other than just, you know, adding some lightener to the spots that I already added it to. And yeah, honestly, this little bit of work, this extra work goes a long way. This is like what's going to perfect the corrective colors, and your client definitely makes note of you adding the extra time and, you know, effort into it, because they really want the brass to be cut. They want all of these blotches to be gone. Like, they want to have perfect hair. So if you're going to go through the extra, you know, work to really make this happen for them, like, they're going to come back to you. They're going to appreciate that so much, you know? So I'm just definitely just doing my part on perfecting this so that they can have perfect hair, you know? And yeah, flipping this piece upside down and reblending and saturating the underneath is definitely just as important as doing the top, because you want to make sure that you're erasing all of the blotches and really cutting through any of this brass. And yeah, it really does the job for sure. And yeah, as you can see, this piece is super brassy, and it's been processing for a while under the heat, but it's definitely like all the lightener dried up. So I'm definitely, you know, I'm glad I'm resaturating, because if I would have just let this process like this, the second I washed this off, it would have been as brassy as this is right now. So, you know, there's like no need for that when you can just go back in really quick and do this extra step and really perfect it. The piece that I just kind of slid off to the side was super, super light, and I didn't want that to break, so I just kind of got that out of the way. And I'm making sure that this is super strong still. That was like that little tugging kind of a test that I just did. So yeah, it's super strong still. I'm just going back in, resaturating this to strengthen it and really get like all of this brass totally bumped out of the hair. And yeah, obviously this piece is so light, doesn't need any more lightener. We just want to work on like this kind of like reddish orange spot. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. This extra work goes a long way. I'm just spraying this piece down with some water, because if I put this under the dryer, it's probably going to break off, so I don't want that to happen. So yeah, I'm just spraying it with some water a bit to weaken it. And I just wanted to point out the reason why I used 25 volume and not something stronger, because the reason why was because I didn't want to cause any breakage. Obviously, there was a lot of chunks of different colors. Like, that one piece that got so light just now that I just had to tuck it off to the side, that would have broke off if I would have used something too strong. And also, I have to do this trick whether I use like something super strong anyway. See, right now I'm like wiping off the side. I have to use this trick whether I'm using like a super strong lightener or not anyway, because even if I would have used, let's say, 30 or 40 volume, like the lightener still would have dried out and weakened, because as it's working, it's definitely eating up all of the pigment that was in her hair, any of her natural pigment or any of the artificial pigment that was put on from previous color services. So the like lightener starts to weaken and dry out anyway. So, but it also possibly could have caused breakage because of all the different colors she had going on in her hair. So the safest bet was to do something that was definitely stronger than 20 volume, but definitely weaker than 30, because it puts me in like that little bit of a safe area. So I like to play it safe when I can, even though I definitely like to push it when I can also. And once I finish doing all of that, I'm just folding all of the foils up and clipping them up really good, because I really want this to get a lot of heat in the dryer. And yeah, so now I'm going to be working on the bang. As you can see, you know, this has totally been left out the whole time. Sorry about the lighting here. My camera was being weird. And yeah, so I'm definitely wanting to cut through any extra brass or the leftover toner that was on from, you know, the previous color. So I'm definitely putting this all over the ends, you know, even though they're super light, but that's why I wanted to wait, because I don't want this to sit on that long. And yeah, I'm putting this on the entire chunk, and I'm just blending that root part up in, you know, the way that you would normally blend a balayage face frame. So just giving like that blended look, not like a strict line at the root, because I'm trying to erase that strict line that was there already. So yeah, just blending this out really good. And then after I put this in a foil, I'm going to pop her under the dryer for literally like 5 minutes, and then I'm going to come back to her, take the dryer hood off, and with like a wet towel, I'm going to open up the foils that I'm actually working on right now, like just the very chunk in the front part, and I'm just going to open up the foils, and with a wet towel, I'm just going to wipe the lightener off of the very ends, and I'm going to leave the lightener on the roots, completely leave it on the roots. I'm just getting it off of those very, very light ends. 5 minutes was like all it needed on the ends, and then I'm going to leave her back under the dryer for a couple more minutes while I work on mixing the glaze. And so what I'm mixing for the glaze, the color melt, is Color Sync in Matrix. And I'm mixing a 1/2 ounce of 6 neutral, a 1/2 ounce of 8V, a 1/4 ounce of 6A, and a 1/4 ounce of 10CG. 10CG is my little trick that I put into my root formulas when I'm doing very dark hair, because when I'm doing a very dark root like this, trying to blend it in from like a dark root to a very light blonde, I'm definitely putting the dark root color like a level 6 and mixing it with a level 8, but still it's like a lot of level 6 involved, you know? And since I'm putting that over the newly freshly lightened pale yellow, you know, hair, I definitely am adding like a pinch of the 10CG into the formula just to prevent it from turning any weird shade of green. So that's my little trick there. And the formula that I mixed up for the ends, definitely a couple of different tones. We want to cut all of this brass and also keep it as light as possible. So I'm mixing a 1/2 ounce of 10P, a 1/2 ounce of 10V, a 1/2 ounce of clear, and also a 1/4 ounce of 10A and a 1/4 ounce of SPP. And that's just like as much as possible going to be getting rid of all of this yellow and orange left over and cutting through the brass. The clear is just going to help dilute this into the level 11 a little bit closer so that it's not just like a pure level 10, because I want to keep this at a level 10. So with Matrix Color Sync, I really like to go like a level lighter, at least a half a level lighter, but about a level lighter, just so that it can definitely process and not have to get darker. So if I want the ends to be closer to a level 10, then I want to use closer to a level 11. But I'm not doing like equal parts clear in this case, because I do have to keep this like at a decent enough level to be able to cancel all of the brass. So if I put too much clear in, it wouldn't be strong enough to cancel through the brass. So I'm still keeping this closer to a level 10, but that's just because she does still definitely have a lot of warmth in her hair. And even though we got this pretty light, like look how light this is, and for as dark as her hair was, you know what I mean, we were able to get this light. And yeah, so closer to level 10 is definitely good and will cut through a lot of this brass. So I shampooed and conditioned her hair, and now I'm combing it to where her part is, and I'm going to be applying the root color first. And yeah, so obviously it looks always super harsh when it's first done, and because I had to like blend this money piece stripe up really far up to the roots, it's a lot higher than I normally would have blended it normally, but I'm going to be blending this down now with the root color anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, I'm just giving this like a nice detangling, and I'm going to be starting off with the root color, because I want the glaze to really absorb into the hair as much as possible to definitely cancel out all of this warmth. And we're loving how this looks already. We love that there's like no more chunks in it, and it's definitely nice and blended even before we do the toner. So it's definitely important to blend a lot with the lightener, because the toner is just meant to like enhance how nice the color is and stuff like that and do the color melt, but you want the lightener to still be having blended the hair, because once the glaze kind of wears off, eventually after like a bunch of weeks, you don't want the hair to have this line in the hair. So the lightener, blending it with the lightener is really important. And yeah, so now I'm applying the dark root color, and I'm applying this all over, and I'm putting a foil up at the top just to make sure that when I flip the pieces over, none of the dark color gets on the ends. And towards this part of the section that I'm painting right now, I'm definitely dragging it down a little bit farther, and towards like the very front near her hairline, I'm only dragging it down about a 1/2 inch. So I'm doing like this kind of diagonal pattern, like a 1/2 inch down to like 2 inches, because I want to give that like halo effect of the light in the front, dark in the back kind of thing. That really also helps to have this grow out nice and natural and seamless and stuff. So yeah, in the very front, I'm just blending this down about a 1/2 inch, and towards like the back of the head is closer to 2 inches. And I'm really excited to be getting rid of this, you know, chunk. Like I said, I did have to blend the lightener up higher than I normally would have for the very front piece, but the darker root color is going to be darkening this all back down anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And yeah, so I'm just saturating this good on the very top and on the bottom of each slice, and just, you know, applying this like I would a single process in a lot of ways. And when I'm done, I'm gonna flip all of the hair back over and comb through it to kind of even more break up this line a little bit. And I guess I wasn't recording while I was combing it, but basically I just combed all of her roots down, and I showed like that one little part of it. But yeah, I combed everything down. And now I'm applying the formula that I have mixed up for the ends all over her ends, and I'm purposely melting the two colors together. So I'm definitely purposely mixing the root color and the ends color together to really get that like nice seamless blend from dark to light. And I think I let this all sit and process for about 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure 10 minutes was good. And then I'm going to wash it out and condition it and bring her back to my station for the style. Now, whenever I do color, I always love to blow dry the very front and the top first because I want to do the big reveal right away. I want to see the color, and I also want to show my client the color because we're both really excited to see it. So I like to just get the big reveal out of the way at the very beginning. And plus, it just makes it so much more fun to continue styling the hair and everything after we already know what it looks like. But yeah, so this is what it's going to look like. It's the darker root, and it's all blended out. There's no more chunks, no craziness. The face frame money piece is not like a random chunk anymore. It's definitely nice and blended. And yeah, I'm going to throw some beach waves into this and some curls, and I'm going to show you guys the final result in a second. But I'm just going through and making sure that my client loves it, and we don't need to like adjust any tones or anything. And yeah, it came out perfect, so I'm just going to finish the style, and yeah. So I'm showing my clients this, but I'll also show you guys how the diagonal sections that I was doing with the color melt on the root, it really shows here with the very front money piece blending out to the very back part and how it has like that diagonal kind of halo. And yeah, it really just makes it so much more natural. Like it looks like she got lightened from a day at the beach type of thing, you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't look so forced. It's super natural, and yeah, we just love it. And yeah, I'm just adding some beach waves, some like relaxed beach waves. I think this is a 1-inch curling iron, and I'm taking about a 1-inch section. And yeah, I'm just giving it like one twirl and then kind of just smoothing it out the rest of the way. That just helps it so that it doesn't come out too curly, because a lot of times the client's hair curls really, really good, almost too good. Like for a beach wave, you want it to stay really nice and relaxed and almost straight kind of. So yeah, I'm just giving it one twirl in the iron and then just smoothing it out the rest of the way. And yeah, it just looks so good with the different effects of the dark and the light, the dimension. It helps to kind of like pop the light or highlight up a little bit so that it just stands out more. And I'm adding some like serum in the ends to really add that shine and to break up a lot of the waves. And here I'm just fixing like one piece in the front so that it didn't look like kind of Farrah Fawcett-like, you know what I mean? Like I wanted it to be very beachy and relaxed. Yeah, so I'm just fixing that. But a serum, I love using serums after the beach waves to really break it up. And yeah, just love how this came out. It looks so good. I'm just giving my client the mirror and I'm showing her the whole back, and I really just want to show her how we were able to get rid of all of like the chunks and it looks like that nice like dark to light seamless balayage. And I'm kind of opening it up for her to really show her that all of the chunks are gone, the shadows are gone. And yeah, that's like what her main thing was, is she didn't want it to be chunky anymore. So I wanted to just point that out, that, you know, we got rid of all the chunks. Okay, and this is the final result. We absolutely love how it came out. It's nice and blended and balayaged, and the foliage that I did really helped to get rid of like all of those chunks and shadows. I'm just so obsessed now that there's no shadows in it. You know, lightening all of the ends out like that is just so, you know, worth it, and doing all that extra work to get rid of the chunks and the shadows, because now she has this like perfect hair color and it just looks like effortless, you know what I mean? It doesn't look so like forced, if that makes sense. But yeah, the money piece is no longer like a big random stripe in the front. It's definitely nice and blended. This was the side that all the shadows were at like the strongest, I feel like, so all of that's totally erased. Yeah, and so we just are obsessed with how this came out. And yeah, and the beach waves always just make it stand out. Like it helps to kind of add the shine back into it, and like I was explaining before, it kind of like helps to pop up the highlights a little bit so you could really see like the peaks and the dimension. And okay guys, so that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys got a lot out of this video, and if you did, definitely please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, especially if you love color videos, and give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it. Definitely hit the bell for post notifications so that you're always notified every time I upload a new color video, and also share this video with anybody that you think it would help. I really appreciate it. And also follow me on Instagram. I always post all of my formulas on all of my posts, so definitely follow me for that. It's at Maxine Glynn, and it's going to be linked below in the description. And definitely ask me any questions that you have in the comments below. I will answer as many as I can. And alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
So give me your all. I'll take it to